I want to welcome everyone back to Real Natives, the archive channel. I do appreciate those who tuned in, those who like, those who have subscribed. And if you can, go ahead and leave a message. Let us know what part of the country you're tuning in from or what reservation you're tuning in from. My next guest is coming to you all the way from Washington. So go ahead, sister. Introduce yourself, your name, your tribal affiliation, as they would say in the Native community. Who are your people?
Hi, my name is Nima. I'm Nima Chabakwe, and I currently live in Yelm, Washington. I am Nisqually, Puyallup, Klickitat, Tainapum, and Kanaka. Both of my parents have passed. My mother was Ali Ikabe McLeod, and her mother was Mildred Kalama. Her parents were Alice Jackson and Peter Kalama. On my mother's side, from her mother, I am Nisqually, Puyallup, Cowlitz, and Native Hawaiian. My mother's father was non-native. His mother was listed as white. We think she was native, but her dad was second generation Japanese American, and his name was Edward Ikabe, but he passed away in World War II and is missing in action and killed in action. My father was James McLeod, and he went by Jimmy. His mother, my grandmother, is actually still alive, and her name is Frankie Couts McLeod. Her mother was Mildred Squally, and my grandmother's father was, we called him Sapalun. I knew him as a child. His name was actually August Couts, or Julius Couts, excuse me. His father was August Couts, and his mother's name was Mariah. My other parts of my family are, to give you a point of reference of who they are, we live now in our traditional area, but my people also traveled freely amongst our extended relatives along the Columbia River and over to the ocean. So, wait.
Thank you. I do appreciate you taking time out this evening to share a little bit about yourself. So the next question would be, what was it like growing up on or off the res? Share a little bit about your younger years as far as you can remember, then to your teenage years, then to your young adult years.
When I was born, we didn't live on the reservation. There wasn't housing available. We did live in Yelm, which is a town that's like a reservation border town. Where we lived was country at the time, but we aren't truly rural. Like, it doesn't take hours to get anywhere where we live. And then when I was about, I think I was 8, and they had housing in Nisqually that was built through HUD. Our family had allotments, but they were condemned to make JBLM, so we don't have a large land base even now. It was very different than it is now to grow up. And my family fished and hunted, and in the summers when we were young, they would go to the mountains and we'd stay up there, they'd pick berries. And looking backwards, my life, I had a lot of people in it. There was all kinds of people we knew. We traveled a lot. I got to grow up with a lot of older people that would be like my great grandparents' ages and older, some of them were born in like the late 1800s. And it was a good childhood for me. Like, I had a good childhood. I got to play. I got to eat our own food, which even now is harder. And then when we lived on the res for a while, and I don't know if people that live now understand, not just on reservations, but collectively around us, how many people drank and did drugs. And it wasn't just natives, it was like a lot of people did drugs and drank. But that was something we were exposed to. My parents didn't party the way some people did. My parents also took care of a lot of people, my grandparents also. But our community, even now, is more communal. I played some sports growing up. My parents made sure, or my father specifically made sure we all learned how to swim. And my parents spent a lot of time with us. It wasn't until, again, like I got older and I realized not everybody plays with their children. My parents played with us. Like they took us places and played games with us. They took us to the mountains. They traveled with us. We went to the ocean quite a bit. And then when I was, I think when I went to school, that was when I found out I was Indian, because I didn't have that sense of myself in the same way, because everybody looked like me, mostly that I was around. And that's the first time I directly experienced racism. That was not fun. But I was also fairly intelligent, not because I think I'm super smart, but I had parents who took time to raise us and spend time with us so we know how to do things. Prior to going to kindergarten, I actually went to Head Start. And then I went through high school, or middle school and high school. I was a bookworm. And then when I went through, like up until high school, I went through public school. I was also really bored. And looking back, it's because I was bored in school. Not because it was too easy, it just was not interesting. And then I transferred out to Chief Lush High Schools, which is an Indian school, high school out on the Puyallup Reservation, and I finished high school there. The first year I went to college back east because it was free, which was not a great experience for me. I did not like the East Coast, and I had never really lived away from my own people. And it was the first time I had lived really like outside of my people. And I don't recommend it. I don't recommend going that far. I think it would be, I think now the word, like I didn't have the words to describe what it was, but it lacked cultural context for me. There was so much I did not know from being here. So there's like the culture difference from being here and then going back to Boston. But then it was also being around non-native people. And it was not a good fit for me. I ended up transferring back over this way, and then it was better. I didn't, and there weren't tribal colleges the way there are now that are options. There was like one, I think that was in the middle of Kansas, which I knew I wasn't going to Kansas either. But it was, and I don't know what I would think of as an accomplishment for me. Like, I still kind of don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I realize like I'm not suited to doing the same thing every day. Like I'm not suited to a repetitive job. I did work in gaming for a while. We have a son, an adult son who's 27. When he was about 10, I started working over on the administrative side for the tribe. And that gets me to about my mid-20s.
Right on. Thank you. I do appreciate you taking time out and sharing about your life experience. So the next question I have is, as they always say to people, what are you doing now for your community? How are you helping out the Native community that you're from or you're involved in? What are you doing active? Oh,
Well, I live within my own community. And I was also raised by people that would also be they were very direct people. And my people are very direct. We have this conversation. People think we're mean. We are not mean. We are very direct. And we say what we mean. But that being raised by these people, like great grandparents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles was like, you have to be like, there's you as an individual, but we do not exist outside of our own people. For me, and this is my how I was raised, and that we have we have we have responsibilities to ourselves, but to our people, to our children, not because we owe them, but it's just kind of how it is. Because that I think that concept does not exist and is not easily expressed in English. But we're supposed to look out for each other. We try to do the best we can to take care of yourself and your family. But right now, I work within my own community, and I coordinate activities for the elders program, which is not really, it's not a great, it makes it sound like, I'm doing like games. That's not always what I do. But it's focused on activities for our elders to engage them and to help them be within our community and have things to do together. So we do have, I do also collaborate with another program, like the adult wellness, where we had like a ribbon shirt class. Today we were preparing for a moccasin making class that we're going to do next week. A couple weeks ago I did 2 nights where I taught people how to make like earrings with like jump rings. Because there's a lot of people that don't know how to do like basic wire work, and it was just doing jump rings to attach things to earrings, and then how to do necklaces with wire. And we also did ribbon skirts with the elders. I sometimes coordinate outside teachers to come in, and like 10 years ago we had a guy come from Northern California to teach shell cutting, which was kind of cool. It was actually very cool. But we also had people come in and teach them different styles of beading. We did one where we did the woven beaded capes. They look like a woven cape. We did those with some beads. And the idea behind some of this is that it's not that I want to do this so that people learn how to take care of it, but it's so that each family has enough people that they have connections with, that when they need to do things for themselves, like make regalia, that they have enough help to do this, because we don't do things alone. And so it's making sure that we have like a support system, and we have enough people in our community with enough collective knowledge to help each other. Does that make sense? It's not to teach them to be independent, but some of it is to teach them how to work together and to be I'm trying to think of, and like I said, some of this does not translate well into English, or the concepts don't exist in English, but in our language it's taking care of your hutch, which is the inner part of you. So there's like your physical body, there's your mind, and then there's that other part of you, and that's the other part of you. Without being like a super religious freak, because I'm not a medicine person. That's not what this is. This is just helping people learn how to take care of each other. Like we have a couple people that graduated high school, say in the last 6 or 7 years, and they would come to some of the stuff we did with their family, and they learned how to do enough to make their own like dresses and skirts and jewelry for when they graduated, or when they needed stuff to go places. They learned how to do it for themselves, which is like the whole purpose. It's like, they know enough to do this, and then they were helping younger family members learn.
Thank you. I got a couple more questions for you. So is there anyone that you consider a hero or a legend that helped you in life to become the person you are today? Is there anyone that you would want to say thank you to?
Oh, there's a whole bunch. I'm trying to think who. We spent a lot of, like my grandma who's still alive. She's my dad's mom. She's 95. She's still, she's very encouraging and humbling at the same time. Like she doesn't bullshit with us. You might have to cut that out, but she's very direct, and she's very, very encouraging in a lot of ways. And then she'll also say things like, "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard." But she's not like putting us down for it. She's just telling us that sounds dumb or it's ridiculous. Don't waste your time. But she was very, very like she went to college, and her sister went to college and became social workers. Her husband, my grandfather, they were also like in the trenches in the fish wars for our people. Most of my family was, and this like when I say that we were fighting in the fish wars, we didn't have big lawyers and stuff. They were passing around a coffee can to raise money for gas for people to travel. To go place to place, and they represented themselves. My mom's mom, my mom's grandmother, she was like they could do everything. Even my grandma who's like, they just could do everything. And they took care of everybody. Like there were times like if somebody like needed help, they could call my grandmother, and she was actually a CHR. And she would get up like 2 a.m. to go take somebody to the hospital. And she would just help people. And she didn't talk about it. Like she never talked about who she helped, what she did. But everybody knew that if they really needed help, she could help them. Even if she couldn't directly help them, she figured out what she could do for them. And even I think my dad and my mom, they took care of a lot of people and made sure that they had like what they needed, which I don't know how to explain it without making it sound like they were doing charity. That's not what they were doing. But I think they had a really good sense of community. And their view of the world was not enmeshed in capitalism and profiting and making money or what they could get out of things. It wasn't extractive. They were much more, these people were all very, very focused on keeping, I don't even know how to say this in English, like keeping things in balance. So like if you take, like when like say if I go harvest like materials because I weave, and I really only make stuff out of stuff that I gather, and I don't sell them. It's just stuff that a little bit that I do here and there. It's very, very much a part of that reciprocal relationship that I have in this world. Like my existence in this world is not for me to extract everything, but there's a reciprocity that has to be there. And I have to be able to live with myself. And they are the people that I saw that in. I would say that's what I looked up to these people for. And that, and it should also be done without calculation. Like you're also not valuing every single thing you do and, keeping a tally. It's way beyond that.
Next question I have for you is any words of wisdom to your future generations, to your next generation of people, any words of wisdom to them?
I guess a time in your life you need to be selfish. Not like to the exclusion of all people, but where you really need to pursue, the things that benefit you and are beneficial to you. Make sure you stay active if you're able to. If you're physically able to, you should be active. Like, I try to make sure that I am always strong enough to like go play in our river. Like, I don't want to ever be so old that I can't go swimming in our river. And we have a big river. Like our river is a very big, very fast river, but that's what I grew up in. I also want to be able to jump in the ocean when it's safe. I want to be able to swim in the Sound. I want to be able to do those kinds of things. And that, especially when you're young, you should be selfish a bit and live for yourself. And you should really learn to know who you are. And I'm going to say this because I am a woman. When I was younger, I did not cater to men as much as other women, but I have catered to men more in my life than I am comfortable with. And that is something I think that really needs to be changed with how women and young girls are raised, is that we do not cater to men. And I don't exist in this. And the older I get, the less it is. But that should, you should have a very definite sense of yourself before you're in a committed relationship with anybody, whether or not you are cognizant of that. And, whether or not you're like heterosexual or anything else, like that's whatever, like people's gender and sexuality is not my concern, but my concern is that people really know themselves before they end up. And because if you don't, then you end up in a relationship and you're not choosing that. And I really think people need to be taught to be selfish for a little bit. And live for, and it's okay to live for yourself.
And I respect that. I respect that. Last question here. At the end of this day, when it's all said and done, we all got to make that spiritual journey. What do you want to be remembered for?
I don't even know. I had an elder lady tell me, it was after my parents were still alive, and we were named our names from our people. So this is all part of a story. So it's not a short answer, but my grandfathers and our elders named me, and we were the first generation in our families to carry our names publicly because they were taken away. And so this would be in like the late 60s and 70s that we carried our names. And our families had to convince them that they wouldn't kill us and beat us for carrying our names in public because they had gone through residential schools. And then in the late 70s, I want to say it might have been like 79, there was an elder woman from Lummi, and she came down, and her name was Margaret Green, and she helped our families with the public naming. And so when we were like 7, maybe, I think I was 7. I was in 53, so I think I was about 7. I might have been 8, but they came down and helped our families with the naming. And the people who had named us, a lot of them were still alive, and they were like almost 100. One of our great grandfathers, he was like over 100 at the time. And she kind of explained all of like what we did and the importance of us knowing our name and where our names come from and why we have them. And so I'd known her this whole time. Like I don't remember not knowing her. And then later on, this would be like in 2011 or 12, she's in Nisqually for an elders luncheon. And we see her, and she's visiting with my parents, so I sit down and we're visiting, and she stops and tells me, people come into this world. She's like, we come into this world. Our people come into this world, and this is a hard world. This world is hard. We're not given anything in this world. We have to work for everything, and it's hard here. And not everything. And she says, like, some of the other worlds aren't hard, but this world is hard. So nobody owes you anything. And what happens is you come into this world, and you should do what matters. And you should live to live. Like, this world is, and she said, this world is for the living. And then we die. And so even before that, that's kind of how I viewed the world. But that's also because my elders and the people who raised me, that's how they are. They all kind of have this perspective that, this world is for living. And I think our people, a lot of Native people, we understand that, which is why at the drop of a hat, we will go and take a trip somewhere and visit people, and we will sit and visit people forever. But I think that's what I would like is, this world is for living. Like, we don't know, like you said, we're all going to die. I even when I was young, I knew I didn't want to work myself to death. Like, that is insane. And I would also say that I'm not stingy. Like, that is one of the worst things to be for my people, is to be stingy. But I would say maybe that, and I think even that is maybe pushing it a little bit. Wait.
Thank you for your time. With that being said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you haven't, go ahead, hit that like button, go ahead and subscribe. And if you haven't, tell those that you love them, because time goes by way too fast. Oh.